Have you ever been, walking down a city street, maybe startled by a rustle in the bushes? Or perhaps you just paused for a second to watch a bird land on your windowsill. It's easy to kind of dismiss these as, well, trivial moments, or even to feel like urban life is just inherently disconnected from nature. We often picture wildlife as something, I don't know, distant,
Right, confined to national parks or like deep wilderness.
definitely not thriving in our concrete jungles. But what if those everyday, maybe fleeting encounters with city creatures, what if they're actually having a profound positive impact on your well-being? So today we're taking a deep dive into exactly that. How our interactions with wildlife right here in our cities profoundly affect our health, and across a surprising, often overlooked range of dimensions too. Okay, let's unpack this. We've got some really fascinating new research. Our source today is a 2023 paper. The title is Evaluating How Varied Human-Wildlife Interactions Affect Physical, Mental, Social, and Spiritual Health. It's by Jose Benito Rosales Chavez and his colleagues, published in SSM Qualitative Research in Health.
Which is, yeah, a journal focused on social science and medicine.
And they took a truly unique qualitative approach here.
And that's precisely what makes this study so groundbreaking, especially, considering what we typically hear about human-animal interactions. A lot of the traditional research, it's focused on, say, rural populations dealing with livestock
Right.
or animals in captivity, like zoos or even just our pets. There's been this significant void. We haven't really understood how urban residents genuinely interact with diverse wildlife, in non-captive, everyday environments. And even more crucially, previous studies often zeroed in on the negative stuff.
But it conflicts diseases.
Exactly, or just the physical impacts.
Yeah.
They largely ignored the subtle yet, well, powerful positive and non-material health benefits. This paper really helps bridge that gap.
That's a really crucial distinction.
Yeah.
So our mission today, then, is to explore the, frankly, surprising findings of this study. We want to understand these four key dimensions of health it looks at and uncover how those seemingly small, everyday interactions with urban wildlife can profoundly shape your life and well-being.
Okay, so let's set the stage a bit. Why is this research so timely? Well, we know that in many countries, over 80% of people now live in cities. It's huge.
A massive global trend, yeah.
And this urbanization has often been linked with this idea of a disconnection with the natural world, which in turn is supposedly linked to negative impacts on our well-being. It's a narrative we hear a lot, this idea that we're losing touch with nature.
And look, that narrative often comes from research that's had its limitations.
Yeah.
Measuring our connection to nature has frequently been, well, indirect.
So.
Like thinking about how many parks are nearby, or if people look out their windows at trees, or even just, listening to nature's sounds.
When animals were considered, it was usually pets or maybe zoo animals. And when it did touch on actual wildlife, the focus was overwhelmingly on conflicts.
Right, property damage, livestock.
Yeah, livestock losses, even physical attacks. This study, though, deliberately sought a much more nuanced, a more comprehensive understanding, moving beyond just the conflict angle.
Which is exactly what makes it so compelling. So the researchers focus on residents in metropolitan Phoenix, Arizona.
Yeah, a really vibrant urban environment right in the middle of the Sonoran Desert. Quite unique.
And they used a qualitative method. They did semi-structured interviews with 24 participants. So this wasn't about ticking boxes on a survey. It was about getting these rich personal stories.
Exactly. A window into their lived and also their perceived experiences with the local wildlife. And to really dig into those stories, the researchers used an analytical framework. It looked at four commonly recognized dimensions of health.
And this goes beyond just physical and mental, right?
Yeah, way beyond. So first, you have physical health. That's about, maintaining a functional body,
Yeah.
doing daily activities, recovering from illness. Pretty standard.
Okay.
Then mental health. This covers things like anxiety, stress, fear, but critically also the positive feelings like peace, enjoyment.
Got it.
Third, social health. This involves comforting interactions with other people, group experiences, feeling connected to your community.
Makes sense.
And finally, spiritual health. This is a less studied but really vital dimension. It encompasses that sense of connectedness with yourself, with others, with something sacred maybe, finding meaning, purpose, a sense of belonging to nature itself.
Wow, okay. Spiritual health. That's not something you often hear discussed with, like pigeons or squirrels.
Exactly. And this is where the study truly flips our assumptions. The dominant narrative often screams conflict, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Coyotes in bins, raccoons causing trouble.
Right. Yet this research, it reveals a starkly different picture. Over half of all the mentioned health outcomes, 52%, were actually positive.
Over half.
Yeah, significantly outnumbering the negative ones, which were at 39.6%.
That's huge. It really does flip the script on how we think about city nature.
And we'll see that play out powerfully, especially when we dig into mental and spiritual health.
The study also carefully categorized the types of interactions people described.
Mm-hmm.
The most common, apparently 64%, were just observational, simply seeing wildlife.
Just watching.
Yeah. Then there were attitudinal interactions. These were more about like hypothetical situations or beliefs, emotions, even if the animal wasn't right there. That was 31%.
Okay, so thinking about wildlife.
Exactly. And finally, physical interactions, meaning direct contact. Those were the least common, only 19%.
Right, like getting stung or maybe touching an animal.
Okay, so let's go through each of these health dimensions now. Let's bring them to life with some of those stories from Phoenix. We should start with the most frequently mentioned one, mental health.
Yeah, mental health was by far the most coded dimension. It accounted for like 65% of all the health segments they analyzed.
55%.
And get this, every single participant, all 24 of them, mentioned it in some way.
Wow.
Every single one.
It just highlights how central our emotional, our psychological responses are to these encounters.
Okay, so digging into that. What kinds of positive mental health outcomes were people reporting? Especially from just, seeing an animal.
Well, many people spoke about feelings of peace, serenity. One participant shared this lovely quote, "In my house in the afternoons, we hear the noise of many birds, many birds. I will tell you that one time an owl lived here for almost 2 weeks. The birds are part of us. They make me feel good. They are part of my life."
That's beautiful, just the sounds.
Exactly. Another person found a lot of peace and serenity from just watching them buzz around after seeing hummingbirds. And it wasn't just about the immediate presence. Nostalgia played a big role, too.
Nostalgia, how so?
One person said, "I'm always really nostalgic for, or I always appreciate Arizona wildlife because I spent a lot of time growing up here."
Mm.
And there was this incredibly vivid memory someone had about cicadas.
Oh, I know that sound. Right. They said, "I love cicada sound. In the desert, we had a lot of cicadas during the heat. I remember summer vacations visiting Grandma in Sonora with my cousins. That sound takes me to a jar full of stories. I feel nostalgia."
Wow. So these aren't just sightings. They're like anchors for memory and emotion.
Deeply embedded emotional connections, absolutely.
It's incredible how those sensory things, sounds especially, trigger such deep feelings. But, okay, on the flip side, what about the negative mental health outcomes? Were they common too?
Oh, definitely. Negative mental health outcomes were also very common, referenced by 92% of participants.
92%. So almost everyone felt something negative too.
Yeah, often driven by fear or a sense of potential danger. And interestingly, even in those attitudinal, hypothetical interactions.
Like worrying about something that might happen.
Exactly. For instance, one person worried, "My sole concern is that a scorpion is going to nestle up in a shoe of mine and I'm going to put it on and get stung."
Thanks. Okay, I can understand that one.
Or another admitted, "I just have an irrational fear of them bees. And sometimes the fear was learned."
Birds.
Yeah, one participant remembered seeing a bear but only felt scared after seeing her parents' reaction. She said, "I don't remember being that scared until I looked at my parents and I saw that they were scared. And then I was like, oh, am I supposed to be scared?"
Huh. That's fascinating. Peer pressure from parents almost.
And of course, there were the more pragmatic concerns, too, about property. Like one person saying, "I don't want a mouse living in my apartment. It's gross and can have diseases."
Right, the ick factor. So fear, learned anxieties, property worries. Clearly, wildlife impacts our mental landscape in, well, complicated ways. But it's not just our heads, is it? This study highlights that deeper, less discussed connection, spiritual health, which you said was surprisingly the second most common dimension of health people experience.
That's right.
So what did spiritual health actually mean to these people in Phoenix, and why was it so overwhelmingly positive?
It's a great question, and it's really what makes this study so rich. Spiritual health, as they defined it, isn't necessarily about, formal religion.
Okay.
It's more that profound sense of connectedness with yourself, with other people, maybe with something sacred or just nature itself. It's that feeling that sort of transcends and empowers you, brings meaning and purpose, including that deep sense of belonging to the natural world.
Right.
And by actually including a dimension like spiritual health, this study really expands our whole understanding of what well-being well-being means, especially in our cities.
And the participants, um, they expressed this beautifully, didn't they?
Oh,
It
absolutely.
was that quote about the bird.
Yeah, describing this powerful, almost mystical moment. The bird was flying in a very peaceful way, as if accompanying us. It gave me goosebumps, but goosebumps are a feeling that cannot be described.
Goosebumps.
It was like the bird was accompanying you, that a spirit is accompanying you. It was such a beautiful feeling that I do not know how to describe.
It's incredibly powerful.
And another person felt a connection through the sea, saying, as I had a connection with the sea, I felt that the animals came to greet me. They were representing their father, the sea.
There's a real sense of respect there, too, and coexistence.
Definitely. Someone said, I kind of felt that we could coexist with this wildlife. We could be there with the wildlife.
Yeah.
And another felt they gained better respect simply through being physically close to it and experiencing it firsthand.
You can just hear the depth of that connection in their words.
And remember, 92% of the spiritual segments they coded were positive.
92%.
Now, there were rarely a couple of negative spiritual outcomes mentioned.
Like what?
Like a sense of bad luck from seeing black widows, maybe, or someone felt profound guilt after killing an opossum, which clearly clashed with their belief in respecting all living things. But those were really the exceptions.
Okay. So moving from the profound to the maybe more practical, let's talk physical health. That was the third most common dimension.
Yeah.
What kind of physical impacts were people talking about?
Well, the positive physical health outcomes, which about 33% of participants reported, were mainly linked to physical activities, things that naturally involved observing wildlife.
Like hiking.
Exactly, especially hiking. Someone shared, I went hiking pretty much every weekend when I was a kid. I have plenty of experience with wildlife, lots of deer, elk, all of that. It's that kind of dual benefit exercise, plus immersion in nature.
That makes total sense. But then there were the negative physical outcomes. 38% of participants mentioned those.
Right.
And these mostly involved direct physical contact.
Yeah, largely things like stings and bites, especially from common urban critters like scorpions and spiders.
So.
Yeah, we heard stories like, my brother got bit by one black widow, or, horrifyingly, everybody who lived in my house had been stung by scorpions in the middle of their sleep.
Oh my God, in their sleep. That is nightmare fuel.
Right. A very different kind of wildlife interaction than watching a hummingbird. It really highlights the urban part of urban wildlife.
No kidding. But what's really interesting, especially given these interviews happened during the COVID-19 pandemic, most people apparently weren't that concerned about catching diseases from wildlife. Why do you think that disconnect was there?
It is a striking point, isn't it? The participants mostly cited, well, a strong belief in medical advances and also the effectiveness of just simple avoidance.
Like, just stay away from them.
Pretty much. One person said, I am not particularly worried because I think avoiding them and not forcing a direct contact probably eliminates all risk of that. Another even put it quite bluntly, if I lived 600 years ago, maybe, but currently, no. A lot of those things the animals carry, we've been carrying it for so long now that we have solutions to it.
Huh. That shows a pretty significant level of confidence, maybe in human ingenuity or just personal control over risk.
I think so, yeah. Confidence and personal agency.
Okay, that confidence is quite telling. Let's move to the last dimension, social health. This was the least coded, you said, mentioned by about 46% of people.
That's right, the least frequent.
So, while less common, what did it tell us about our shared experiences with city wildlife?
Well, here, the positive social health often came from shared group activities that involved wildlife. Things like camping, fishing, hiking together.
Doing things with other people.
Exactly. One participant remembered, as a family, we went camping a lot. We were always looking at different plants and animals and things that were around. And yeah, it was just something we enjoyed. Those shared experiences in nature clearly build connections, build memories.
It's interesting, though, how even negative social experiences could pop up. Like that person who talked about a rattlesnake at summer camp.
Yeah, where people started screaming. It highlights how a shared frightening event can also be a memorable, if not exactly positive, social experience. Creates a shared story, I suppose.
True. A bonding experience of sorts, maybe?
Could be. And social interactions can also really shape individuals' awareness, their beliefs over time. There was one poignant example of a participant who actually stopped fishing.
Stop fishing.
Because they developed a personality and beliefs about, well, impaling fish. It shows how their evolving social consciousness, their values, directly influenced how they interacted with wildlife later on.
That's a powerful shift. Okay, so let's shift focus slightly to the wildlife itself. The study found 57 different types mentioned,
Yeah, quite a variety.
but the most cited were birds, snakes, coyotes, and scorpions, which are all pretty common desert species right there in Phoenix, right?
Exactly. These aren't, rare, exotic creatures you have to trek miles to see.
So where were people seeing them?
That's the crucial part. These interactions often happened in the participants' own homes or very nearby, in their yards, their neighborhoods.
Right, in their backyard, almost
Yeah,
literally.
most literally. It really challenges that idea that you need some grand expedition to have a profound wildlife encounter.
You don't need to travel far at all.
No, nature, wildlife, it's genuinely all around you in the city. It's woven into the fabric of daily life.
So, okay, pulling it all together, what does this really mean for us? The big picture.
Well, this study really hammers home that overall, the positive outcomes, especially those mental and spiritual ones, significantly outweigh the negative.
Yeah.
It directly challenges those prevailing narratives that focus almost entirely on conflict, on problems.
It really does flip the script on our relationship with the wild in cities.
And it gives us a much more nuanced, more comprehensive picture of well-being itself. You can see how the dimensions are tangled up, right?
How so?
Well, like fear, a negative mental health thing is often linked to a perceived physical danger, like the scorpion in the shoe.
Right.
But conversely, the positive mental health, like feeling calm, and the positive spiritual health, that sense of connection, they seem really closely intertwined. Both come from those feelings of relaxation, peace, that deep connection with wildlife. It just paints a much more holistic picture of how these interactions affect us.
This feels like it has some pretty powerful, actionable implications for urban planning, for conservation.
Oh, absolutely.
If so many of these meaningful interactions happen so close to home.
Then preserving existing green spaces, like that huge South Mountain Park they mentioned in Phoenix, and actually creating new ones becomes absolutely crucial. It's not just a nice to have.
It's fundamental for well-being.
Exactly. And education, too. It
Yeah.
could play a huge role in addressing misconceptions, maybe mitigating some of those negative fears.
Especially the fears driven more by attitude or imagination than actual
Yes.
immediate threats.
Precisely. Now, the study does have its strength, that qualitative depth, the focus on desert wildlife, including spiritual health.
But limitations, too.
Of course. As with any study like this, it's important to remember it was a small, convenient sample, just 24 people in one city. So the findings can't necessarily be generalized everywhere. It just underscores that we need more research like this in different places with different groups of people.
Agreed. But it definitely brings it back to your everyday life, doesn't it? That the wild is closer than you probably think. And its impact on your well-being is profound and really multifaceted, more than just seeing a bird. So, boiling it down, what's the core takeaway here for everyone listening?
I think it's that our daily interactions with urban wildlife, hearing birds outside your window, maybe seeing a coyote cross the street, even dealing with a spider, they're profoundly impacting our mental and spiritual well-being, and in overwhelmingly positive ways, far more than we generally realize or talk about.
That really reframes things.
And maybe this raises an important question for us to think about.
Go on.
If even these small, seemingly mundane, everyday encounters with urban wildlife offer such profound mental and spiritual benefits, well, what responsibility do we have as city dwellers, as planners, as communities? What's our responsibility to not just preserve, but to actively cultivate these opportunities for ourselves and definitely for future generations?
That's a powerful thought to end on. A responsibility to cultivate those connections, not just tolerate them. Thank you for tuning in to The Deep Dive. We really encourage you to look up this fascinating study if you can, and maybe just take a moment next time you're out and about, or even at home, to notice those urban wildlife encounters. They might be doing more for you than you ever imagined.